Dr. Volker Stanzel is a former German ambassador to China and Japan. He is now joining us live from Berlin. Dr. Stanzel, thank you very much for your time. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on 62-year-old suspect called Fan to severely punished or to be severely punished in accordance with the law. This move is being termed as relatively rare by President Xi, but in essence, what is the scale of punishments that we are likely to see here, and what do you make of the Chinese government's reaction to the incident?
Well, first of all, of course, for capital crimes, there is capital punishment that is not extraordinary. Secondly, what do we make out of this case as such? So far, we have no information about the actual background of the culprit, except that the police says this was a family problem. Now, as we have so scarce information, maybe you'll permit me some general remarks, because I think two aspects have to be taken into account. One of them is that generally, heterogeneous societies, as modern industrial societies are, exert enormous pressure on many individuals. And some of them, unfortunately, look for an outlet by taking recourse to violence. We have this in many countries, including my own. This is extremely deplorable. And of course, it is a great task for our governments, a task that is much more than one could solve by taking recourse to capital punishment means. The second aspect is the situation in China. While it is generally the way I described and you described when you enumerated a number of similar cases in China in the past, this indeed is interesting insofar as it concerns people from very different straits of life and with very different backgrounds, professional backgrounds, family backgrounds. Like between what happened in Zhuhai now, this very tragic and sad accident, and the killing of a Japanese 10-year-old school child, they don't seem to have anything in common, do they? So this has been going on for many, many years, despite the rigorous means the police in China uses as their means. I myself, I actually was present when somebody tried to blow up the Temple of Heaven in Beijing, and we never heard what happened to that person. We also had the cases when Uyghurs attacked Han Chinese with knives in Yunnan in one case and in Xinjiang in another case. We have not too rarely these kind of explosions of violence, of people who see no other way but to take the very irrational and very cruel path of violating others. So I think this is the backdrop that we have to take into account before we try to understand what actually happened in Zhuhai. As I said, it's a deplorable event, it's a tragic event, and we all want to know what is in the background before the person who's the culprit is undergoing capital punishment.
Mr. Ambassador, now that you've mentioned it, there are reports that the suspect was going through a divorce, and China has seen a number of recent attacks against civilians, including children, like you mentioned, and foreigners. What does that say about the state of the country when it comes to the social aspect?
Well, I think there is this pressure that I spoke about, and it comes from two different sources. One is, like in every industrialized countries, the situation in the workplace is exerting pressure. And people who don't have a workplace feel pressure as well. That is why we had a different kind of reaction quite recently. I think 2 years ago it started, which was the lying low movement among young people who decided they would not have anything to do with a society that puts so much pressure on their daily lives and who just lied low. So you have the path some people take to try to escape the society as it is, and this is a signal that there is too much pressure, and others that we've been speaking about before, where people take recourse to knives or to amok attacks by car or whatever, which is much more cruel and much more sad, of course, but which also has as a background the same the same reason that people feel there is so much pressure exerted upon them. Now, in the past, we knew that China's Communist Party government tried to create a very homogeneous society. I think during the pandemic, the party and the government has come to realize that this has not been achieved. China still is a relatively heterogeneous society. It's a pluralist society. And that means that people are undergoing the experience of pressure from all kinds of sides, from the party, from their company, and from their workplace, from their university, whatever. And the result is the one that we've just been discussing.
I've been talking to Dr. Volker Stanzel, as a former German ambassador to China and Japan. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your time. We'll have to leave it there.
You're welcome.